Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever looked at a place often described as, well, poor, and wondered if there's a hidden blueprint for radical transformation? Today, we're doing just that. We're diving deep into a truly ambitious vision for Bihar, one of India's most populous states.
It's fascinating, actually. The sources we've looked at lay out this comprehensive, almost audacious plan. It's not just about small improvements here and there, but a total reimagining of its economy, its governance structure, moving it from India's poorest state towards, well, a global economic hub.
That's right, and we've got a stack of sources here that, go beyond the usual headlines. They detail a concrete 5-year plan, some really bold land reforms, a cashless 5G-powered future, and even thinking about a new form of meritocratic governance. So our mission today is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from these proposals so you can walk away truly well-informed about what some are calling the Bihar equation and what it might mean for development models everywhere.
Exactly. We'll explore the underlying challenges, which are significant, and the specific strategies being proposed, particularly by figures like political strategist Prashant Kishore, and also how global and Indian best practices are being sort of woven into this. It really raises the big question: can a region with such deep-seated challenges truly leapfrog into a completely new era of prosperity?
So let's set the scene first.
Mhm.
BR, currently India's poorest state. We're talking about a huge population, over 130 million people. And just to give you some context, the per capita income for 2023-24, it hovers around $700 USD.
Right, and you compare that to India's national average,
Right.
which is about $2,400.
That's a huge gap, a really significant economic chasm.
And if you step back, look at the global picture. Bihar's Human Development Index, 0.596 back in 2021, that actually puts it on par with some sub-Saharan African countries.
Like where?
Like Kenya, which is around 0.575, or Uganda at 0.525. The economy is still very heavily reliant on agriculture. That's about 22% of its gross state domestic product, the GSDP, and a staggering 80% of the population is involved in farming in some way.
80%. Wow.
Yeah, but it struggles with low productivity, very high rates of migration for work, and unemployment is around 7%. Education is another immense hurdle. Literacy was just 61.8% in the 2011 census. And there's a really concerning statistic that only 3% of scheduled caste students actually complete class 12.
It paints a pretty stark picture, doesn't it? But despite all these really formidable challenges, the sources we have keep talking about potential.
Yeah.
So for you listening, someone interested in development, this isn't just about tweaking things. It means addressing fundamental issues right at their roots, trying to transform an entire system. Now, a key figure mentioned in driving this proposed transformation is Prashant Kishore. He's a well-known political strategist. His party, Jan Suraj, is apparently aiming to contest the 2025 Bihar Assembly elections. And the goal seems to be disrupting the state's traditional, often caste-driven political landscape and shifting the focus squarely onto development.
Mm-hmm. And the specifics of his vision, which he announced after this huge 3,000-kilometer walk, a Pagyatra, they're quite detailed. He's been very critical of what he calls the complete collapse of Bihar's education system. His proposal: use the 20,000 crore that could come from ending the state's liquor ban to fund education directly.
That's a significant amount of money.
It is. And for employment, he's talking about training village youth for digital self-employment, targeting earnings of maybe 5,000 to 10,000 a month, which, in Bihar's context, is substantial. It could reduce that need to migrate. His agenda also includes crucial land reforms to boost agricultural productivity. We'll definitely need to dig into that. And he even went on a fast-unto-death protest about irregularities in the BPSC exams. That's the Bihar Public Service Commission.
Right, for government jobs. Shows a strong anti-corruption stance.
Exactly. The overarching theme seems to be shifting politics away from caste calculations towards class issues and fundamentally development.
And it's worth remembering, he has a track record with this kind of data-driven approach. We saw it with Nitish Kumar in Bihar back in 2015, the DDK Bolo campaign in West Bengal in 2021, and even with Modi's 2014 National Victory Date, things like Chai Pe Charcha, those 3D rallies. He brings a very high-tech strategic mindset.
Okay, but for this whole vision to work, the sources really hammer home one foundational change: land. Revolutionizing how land is owned and used. The argument isn't just social justice, though that's part of it. It's positioned as an economic powerhouse, a key lever for Bihar's future.
Yeah, the imbalance described is really striking. The sources state that upper castes, less than 20% of the population, control nearly 80% of the land in Bihar.
80%, wow.
Yeah, and this is described as creating an economic bottleneck. It basically stops wealth and investment from spreading widely.
But the interesting part, the proposed solution is framed as a win-win. How does that work?
Well, the idea is if you redistribute even small plots, say zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 acres to landless families, it gives them collateral. Suddenly they can access microcredit. Okay, so they can start small businesses or diversify their farms, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And the clever part, according to the plan, is that even if large landowners give up some physical land, the value of the land they keep could increase so much due to overall economic growth that they actually end up wealthier. You own less land, maybe, but each bit is worth far, far more. A rising tide lifts all boats kind of argument.
So how would they actually do this? Is there a mechanism proposed?
Yes, there's a proposed scheme called the Bihari Agrarian Upliftment and Enterprise Scheme, or BAUEs. It has several pillars. First, satellite-based land digitization. Using high-res satellite imagery, maybe from ISRO or Planet Labs, and possibly blockchain to map every single parcel precisely, the hope is this could resolve like 70% of Bihar's 3 million pending land disputes.
3 million disputes. It's incredible.
It's huge. Second, linking ownership to Aadhaar, India's biometric ID system. That means transparency, clear titles, which helps banks feel confident lending money. Third, a universal goal. Every family should own at least a small piece of land. And finally, an interesting idea. Landowners contributing land for industrial zones could get equity stakes in those zones, aligning their interests with industrial growth.
And this isn't just pie in the sky, right? There are historical examples.
Absolutely. The sources point to Operation Barga in West Bengal in the late 70s, early 80s. That secured tenant rights and reportedly boosted productivity significantly. And internationally, think about post-war land reforms in South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. Those laid the foundation for their rapid industrialization, helped create new middle classes. It shows these reforms can be truly foundational.
Okay, so land reform is pillar one. But how does Bihar plan to jump into the modern digital economy? Avoid getting stuck with outdated infrastructure.
This is where the skip the landline strategy comes in. The focus is universal, potentially free 5G access.
Free 5G for everyone.
Well, heavily subsidized. That's the ambition outlined. Using potentially some of that order 20,000 crore annual revenue from ending the liquor ban. The plan talks about partnering with the big telecom players Jio, Airtel, BSNL, and providing subsidized 5G smartphones to poorer households.
And 5G isn't just faster browsing, is it? It's an enabler for bigger things.
Exactly. The sources talk about this Silicon Ganga vision. Imagine this. A Patna-based edtech startup trains 1 million young Biharis to tutor students globally, US, UK, Gulf, using platforms like Zoom. These tutors might earn $500 a month. Collectively, that's $6 billion a year flowing into Bihar. It could boost per capita income by 10–15%.
1 million global tutors from Bihar. That's a bold vision.
It is. And then there's training maybe 100,000 yoga instructors for online classes worldwide, another $360 million annually, potentially. Plus, think about telemedicine. 5G-enabled teleclinics connecting rural villages to doctors instantly. That could revolutionize healthcare, drastically cut infant mortality. For many, a doctor visit now means hours of travel.
Right, that would put a massive change on the ground.
And what about agriculture? How does 5G help there? The plan details refrigerated agricultural supply chains. Picture refrigerated trains running from Patna and Muzaffarpur to Kolkata's ports.
For export.
Precisely. Exporting high-value produce, tomatoes, onions, potatoes, fruits like mangoes and lychees, even flowers to the Gulf, East Asia. Markets like Singapore, Dubai, Japan. This is projected to potentially increase farm income tenfold for maybe 10 million farmers, adding maybe $50 to $100 billion annually to Bihar's economy, transforming subsistence farming into a global export business.
Okay, agriculture, digital services. What about manufacturing? Bihar has this huge young population.
Yeah, the sources definitely highlight that. Labor-intensive industries are seen as key. Things like textiles, electronics assembly, garments, light engineering, Bihar's strength. A massive pool of trainable workers, nearly 58% of the population is under 25. And a crucial factor, Bihar has among the lowest wages in India. That makes it very cost competitive.
But there are challenges, surely. Power supply, logistics, governance image skills.
Absolutely acknowledged. Unreliable power, underdeveloped logistics, that historical image issue, and a skills mismatch are all mentioned. But crucially, the plan outlines solutions. Creating fully serviced special industrial zones, maybe like Sri City or Dholera, developing skill clusters, perhaps partnering with big companies like Samsung or TCS. and offering smart incentives, like state-level versions of the National Production-Linked Incentive Schemes.
Are there models for this kind of industrial push?
Yes, the sources point to examples. Bangladesh's garment boom is one. Noida's electronics cluster near Delhi is another. They show how low-cost labor, combined with the right policies and infrastructure, can really fuel industrial growth and create jobs. The projection here is potentially 20 lakh, that's 2 million jobs, with maybe 5 lakh, half a million, in higher tech and knowledge industries.
This is incredibly ambitious across the board. But it's not just about the economy, right? There's a governance piece, too.
A fundamental piece. This brings us to a really bold idea, creating a meritocratic multi-party democracy and aiming for a corruption-free future.
Meritocratic democracy. What does that actually mean in this context?
Well, the plan mentions the concept of a meritocratic governance party, or MGP, and it draws inspiration from something called the Kalkist Blueprint from Kathmandu. The core idea seems to be leadership based on performance, integrity, and competence, not just popularity, connections, or money.
Interesting. How would that translate practically?
For the bureaucracy, it suggests performance-based promotions, bringing in experts from outside, lateral entry, and using real-time digital monitoring for public services. For political parties themselves, it proposes mandatory internal elections, selecting candidates based on qualifications and public service record, not just caste or cash, and linking public funding for parties to transparency.
And then there's the cashless idea, making Bihar India's first 100% cashless state.
Yeah, that's a real game changer mentioned. Leveraging that universal 5G for seamless digital payments, UPI, BroadPay, PhonePe, all those platforms. The thinking is this could drastically cut corruption, potentially saving Bihar $1–2 billion a year, and also boost tax compliance significantly.
How does this link back to that Kalkist idea you mentioned?
The sources suggest a Kalkist research center could collaborate on developing AI tools for things like that land mapping we discussed, and also for human capital analytics. The idea seems to be blending traditional knowledge or wisdom with modern tech to build ethical, transparent systems, especially in a host-cash economy context.
Okay, so if all these pieces, land reform, 5G, new industries, governance changes,
Yeah.
if they all actually come together, what's the expected payoff? What are the projections?
The sources paint a picture of truly transformative growth. The immediate goal cited is hitting 15% annual growth by 2030. That would take Bihar's GSDP to around 17 lakh crore, which is roughly $200 billion USD, and the long-term vision. It's aiming for a $1 trillion economy by 2040.
$1 trillion from where it is now.
That's the stated ambition, with per capita income projected to rise from about $436 back in 2011 to $8,000 by 2040.
That's a staggering jump. And what about jobs? You mentioned some numbers earlier.
Right. Just from that skip the landline digital strategy, the projection is 2 million jobs. That breaks down roughly into 1 million tutors, 100,000 yoga instructors, 500,000 in related agriculture, tech, logistics, 100,000 in fintech, 200,000 in other tech roles. But the overall target across all sectors is even bigger, 15 million jobs. For you tracking development globally, this is really about turning that huge young population, the demographic dividend, from a potential burden into a massive asset.
15 million jobs.
Yeah.
But is it actually feasible? Where does the money come from?
Well, the sources argue the plan is designed to optimize Bihar's existing budget, which is around 2.79 lakh crore, plus leveraging central government funds and, crucially, attracting significant private investment and foreign direct investment, FDI. They also cite examples like Rwanda and Vietnam, places that were poor but achieved rapid growth through major governance reforms and integrating into global markets. The argument is Bihar could potentially follow a similar path.
What a deep dive we've had. It's quite something. We've seen how a region like Bihar, facing really significant challenges, is putting forward this multi-pronged blueprint. It's tech-forward, it seems human-centered in its goals, leveraging demographics, unlocking land value, embracing digital, all aimed at a more inclusive economy.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Bihar's vision, as bold as it is, isn't just about Bihar. It offers a really fascinating potential model for other developing regions facing similar struggles with poverty, governance, job creation. It leaves us with that important question. If, and it's a big if, this plan is implemented with real political will, with unwavering focus, could Bihar actually become a global benchmark for development?
Indeed. It's not just about fancy titles like Silicon Ganga or becoming an export hub. It's about fundamentally redefining what might be possible for regions that have historically been left behind. So thinking about everything we've discussed, what stands out most to you from this vision for Bihar? What part feels like it holds the most promise or maybe poses the biggest challenge?